Tata Motors has made it a habit of turning up late for the hottest parties in the Indian automotive market. But with every successive launch, they seem to be making a bigger splash, and that certainly seems to be the case for their entrant into the compact SUV space, the Nexon. Yes, it's late, but fashionably so. And the Nexon is planning to tempt you away with the power of more. More technology, more practicality, more features, and more design. Well, more wow for sure. It has something called as a sliding tambour door. What is that? And what is the Nexon like to drive? You'll get the answers now. The Nexon could very well be the concept car that was first showcased in 2014. It's only the show car bits like the LED headlamps and cameras instead of ORVMs that have been replaced for the production car. So that means the Nexon is a crossover, swoopy like a sports car and rugged like an SUV. The face wears a look that we have seen on newer Tatas, with the large flared headlamps giving it a new twist. Inside it are LED DRLs and projector lamps, but there are no LED headlamps here. At 1811 mm, the Nexon is the widest in its class, and its 2498mm wheelbase is almost as much as Maruti Suzuki's Vitara Brezza, but it is smaller than the Ford EcoSport. The Nexon's best angle though has to be this. It looks sporty but tough. The way the roof swoops down like a coupe contrasts beautifully with the rugged plastic rub strips and the plastic-clad rocker panels. At 1607mm, it won't stand as tall as its American and Japanese rivals, but the 209mm of ground clearance when unladen has it standing well off the ground. Then you have chunky tires at all four corners, which give it a very confident stance. The grey roof and the white sash that races upwards as it sweeps back makes for a beautiful contrast. The band is a signature of the Nexon, but the finish isn't slick enough. The really dramatic part of the design has to be the rear. The white sash flows in here and wraps around the dice tail lamps that are packing smooth LED lines. The bumper looks chunky and it is actually integrated into the tailgate. But don't worry, it's the tough grey plastic bit underneath that will rub against pillars and posts. Yes, the Nexon is a sporty and cool looking machine and not a square SUV. So it might not win everyone over, but it is clear that the impact design language is building a distinct image for Tata products. And the Nexon has a few wild secrets of its own. As a tribute to the Indian subcontinent, there is a lioness and a cub on the rear windscreen. And as if to make a point, there's a tiger in the large glove box. And when we're talking of storage, on the Nexon you get the convenience of a lift-back tailgate, which gives you easy access to 350 liters of storage, which isn't class leading, but it's plenty. And if you want more, you've got the convenience of a split second row which folds down nice and flat, so whether you want to carry lots of luggage, you can pack that in, or a combination of passengers and luggage as well. Well, what of the cabin space? When you first look to get inside the Nexon, the first thought is this really a sub-4 meter SUV? Because of its width and the general sense of space, it feels larger than what you've come to expect from compact SUVs. While there is ample shoulder room to seat three abreast, the way the seat base cuts in at the center makes it less than ideal for a third occupant. And yes, there are only two adjustable headrests. Now, middle passenger aside, this back seat is particularly welcoming. You've got plenty of knee room and headroom. It's good enough for the tallest of turbaned passengers. Yes, indeed. But the seat could have been set a little bit higher and the cushioning could have been a bit more firm in my books. But on the whole, the way the seat is shaped gives you plenty of support and keeps you comfortable even on longer journeys. And on top of that, this XZ Plus top-end variant also gets a blower for the rear passengers with 2 speeds. But this doesn't really pump cool air to you, so it takes a little bit of time to cool the rear space because it's actually sucking in air from the sides and sending it towards you. The front seats offer great lateral support and held my not-so-large frame quite well. In terms of design, yes, the steering wheel and the instrument cluster are quite familiar, but the restrained dash design, the colors, the plastics, the infotainment screen propped up on the dash make the Nexon look like a European luxury car. The new 6.5-inch display is a big upgrade as it offers plug-and-play connectivity to smartphones thanks to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which will be made available by launch. We found that the reversing camera's resolution isn't all that crisp, but you do get bending guidelines to make reversing easier. Another good thing, the screen is readable even in bright sunlight. The sheer genius of this infotainment system has to be these physical buttons up here. They're positioned perfectly, easy to reach out to, and you can use the menus so easily when you're driving. You don't have to look away to see the menus on the screen. You can just scroll through quickly, just takes a quick glance, and scrolling using these buttons is just so much more snappier than using the touchscreen directly, because that does feel a bit laggy. But on the whole, I really like this setup. You also get what has become a hallmark for Tatas: great music systems. The Nexon uses an 8-speaker Harman setup, and it sounds rich. And in a segment first, this wristband lets you ditch the hassle of carrying a remote key around. Pretty cool, huh? The materials used here inside the Nexon's cabin is more premium than we've come to expect in this segment. It feels premium, it feels well built too, it feels solid. Look at the switches for the power windows, really nice and plush. The way the damping is for the stalks for the wipers or for the indicators, again, feel really good. But where the Nexon misses out is the way it all comes together. When you look closely, you'll find panels that don't fit all that well, and when you see things like this, it doesn't inspire too much faith. But there are some silly details that are really hard to overlook. For instance, the port for the USB is tucked here behind the gear lever and in a cubby down here. To get to it with a cable in hand is painful, trust me. Why couldn't it just have been here in this cubby hole here? And this, by the way, is the tambour sliding door. This little door that covers what should be a storage space. And coming back to the point, this is where the USB ports should have been, so you could have stored your phones easily as well. But what you have instead over here is space for cups. And trust me, I challenge you, you cannot use these to keep cups in here. And the party trick here is an umbrella holder. But the umbrella better be small and it needs some force to be placed in that nook. We expect the Nexon to be made available in 4 variants for both engines. But the exact trim differences is not known now. But this is known and it's important. ABS, dual airbags, cornering brake control and brake assist will be available as standard across the range. And now, let's get going. The highlight is under the hood, and that's the new engines. There's a new 1.2-litre turbocharged petrol and an all-new 1.5-litre diesel engine. Both of these make 110 PS and come mated to 6-speed manual gearboxes for now. First, let's take a look at the Revo Torque, which is the 4-cylinder diesel. When you first start it up, yes, the diesel rumble is a little apparent and you feel a little bit of vibes in the cabin. But as you get going, the sound gets subdued and the cabin really feels smooth. The real winning point about this engine has to be its drivability. It's so easy to drive, even at low speeds. Tata claims that this engine makes its peak torque of 260 Nm from 1500 RPM. That means it should be quite easy to drive, even in the city. With this 6-speed gearbox, which shifts quite smoothly, you can drive it around in the town at 30 km an hour in 3rd, 4th gear. Just let it amble around from 1000 RPM. It'll pick up cleanly. And to make commuting easier still, the clutch is light as well. Now, very often drive modes can end up being a bit of a gimmick. And the Nexon has 3 of them: City, Eco and Sport. The good news though, they aren't gimmicks here. The modes alter the torque and responsiveness on offer. You can use it in city mode where the torque jump at about 2000 RPM is softened, so you get linear power delivery, which makes driving in the city that much nicer. When you put it in sport, you'll get that rush of torque at 2000 RPM. And this is a great mode to have when you're, well, obviously when you want to drive fast, but otherwise when you're on the highway and want to overtake. This will give you the most performance that is on offer. The diesel Nexon weighs 1300 kilograms, which makes it 100 kilos heavier than the Brezza. But we expect drivability and fuel efficiency to be quite strong. Now let's move focus to the Petrol. This 3-cylinder Revotron unit is based off the Tigor's engine, but a turbo gives it a lot more power and it has 170 Newton meters of torque from 2000 to 4000 RPM. Now the petrol engine, where it feels the most enjoyable is in sport mode, because that's where you get a whole wallop of torque in the mid-range, and it has this slightly ragged feel to it. Throttle inputs feel sharp, you can feel every bump in the power delivery, and well, it feels fun because of that. Imagine going into a corner, getting to the exit, putting your foot down at about 4,500 RPM and getting wheel spin. When it comes to commuting, the petrol engine feels usable but not particularly impressive, and there are a couple of reasons for that. First is that you'll need to work the gearbox if you let the revs drop below 1500 RPM, because that's when you will feel that sluggishness of turbo lag. Secondly, the raggedness that felt enjoyable in sport mode in terms of the power delivery, well, you can feel that too from behind the wheel when you're in city mode, but it is milder. Nonetheless, it takes some getting used to. Also, when you go on and off the gas, you feel a little bit of a jerk, and that can get discomforting, especially if you're in stop-and-go traffic. So, how does it handle? Well, the Nexon uses McPherson struts up front and a non-independent twist beam at the rear. That's pretty much par for the course. So the question is it fun or not? Now the petrol is lighter than the diesel, and you can feel that. The steering feels lighter, you get more of the road surface at the wheel as well, so you get a more connected feel, and along with that, this just feels a bit sharper in the way it turns into corners. The trade-off is, in terms of ride quality, this doesn't feel quite as settled as the diesel. You do feel more of the road surface in the cabin as well. The heavier diesel has a slightly different suspension setup, and it feels more flat in terms of ride quality. Tatas have been coming with fairly Euro spec suspension. Now you can drive this thing with a fair amount of confidence on windy roads because body control is kept well in check and there is a good amount of grip from the tires as well. The Nexon is a remarkable product from Tata. This bold crossover combines standout form with immense practicality. And if it weren't for the fit and finish, we would recommend it without hesitation. The Nexon could very well be setting segment benchmarks because of the superb diesel engine and the big car levels of space in the cabin. On top of that, this Tata is a neat and tidy handler and comfortable to be driven around in as well. The Petrol is exciting when driven hard, but for everyday use, you'd wish its performance was smoother and more fluid. And yes, along with the striking design, this Tata has almost all the features you need, and some wow factor as well. The Nexon is expected in Tata showrooms before Diwali and will be priced between 7 and 10 lakh rupees. If you're looking for an automatic version of the Nexon, you'll have to wait until early 2018. Now, if Tata could only just calm the nerves on questions of longevity, the Nexon would be a product that wouldn't need aggressive pricing. It would sail through on merit alone.